to go ahead and get started. My name is Ron. I'm with Safety Center. I'm an instructor in workplace safety. I travel around working with clients to keep their employees safe, but I also host podcasts for Safety Center. So with that said, we've invited Mary Edmund to join us and talk to us about CERT. And I'm gonna, Mary, let you introduce yourself if you would, and then tell us a little bit about what the acronym CERT stands for.
Hi, I'm Mary Edmund, and I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called the CERT Auxiliary that was established in 2015 to help coordinate and sustain and set up the CERT program. But anyway, my background is a little bit, I spent 30 years in the military, 10 of which was at the Pentagon. So I understand disaster in a different sort of sense of the word. And so when I arrived here, I saw that there was a need. And so we started a nonprofit to make it better. So CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team. And the whole idea is to train individuals to form cohesive units in neighborhoods that are able to respond to a disaster, and they have the knowledge and the skill and the confidence to respond. And that, because typically in a disaster, the professional responders are overwhelmed and they're not able to respond to all the needs of the community. When you think about how they're set up for a day-to-day operation. They don't have the capacity to expand in an emergency. So this is where CERT really fits in, because we're in the neighborhoods and we're able to help our people until we can get help, or sustain what's going on until you're able to help. Because some areas are going to get a response much quicker than others, particularly if you're in an isolated area.
Excellent. And Mary, where did the concept CERT come from? When was that originated?
This is an interesting story. It all sort of started in LA and Los Angeles, and they're known for having a lot of earthquakes. So they went to a group of officials, which included the assistant fire chief from LA, Frank Borden, to go on a fact-finding mission to see what their disaster plans were, because I don't know if you're aware, Japan has more earthquakes than any other place in the world. So they know how to do earthquakes, I guess. And so while they were there, they got more than they bargained for, because they actually had an earthquake while they were there, the Kyoto earthquake. And they got to see firsthand how they responded. And Japan had set up neighborhood groups where they pre-train them in certain things like light search and rescue, how to suppress small fires, basic first aid, and how to help with evacuation. So they saw that it really made a huge difference, because the response was much broader than it would have been had they just counted on the people that were there day to day. So they came back, and then they went to another, they said, well, we got to find out more information. So they went to Mexico City after their massive earthquake in '85 that killed like 10,000 people. And what was remarkable about that earthquake was that 100 people died trying to help people, trying to save lives. And what they saw with that is that people that aren't trained don't understand what's safe and what isn't safe. So they didn't have that safety in their minds, and they were doing things that were dangerous and that they probably shouldn't have done. So they lost 100 rescuers that way.
Wow.
So they came back and they started thinking about it. So in 1986, Frank Borden, who was the assistant chief at that time, worked out this, what he called the Community Emergency Response Team Program. And it focused on all the things that Japan had, except it added an intelligence and surveillance area where neighborhoods could call and say, well, our neighborhood is okay, or our neighborhood needs help, or whatever. So it expanded the reach of the professional responders, as well as a communication element, because that's really important to have that set up beforehand. So from there, in 1987, they had, a year later, they had an earthquake, and they saw that it was valuable. So they sent up an emergency preparedness unit with the fire department, and they started teaching CERT, what they called CERT, the program. And it has continued and continued. And I think it was to 1993 was when FEMA discovered this program. Said, oh, this is a good program. Maybe we could use it for more than just LA. And so at that point in time, they made plans to expand it. And, you know, as in government, it takes a while for things to happen, but eventually it expanded out throughout every state in the country has a CERT program. They may not be in every county, but every state has one. And it's in China, in Japan, in Mexico, Canada. It's beginning to expand around the world.
Amazing.
And it's amazing. It really is amazing. And I don't know if you want to hear about our particular program here.
I was going to ask you how long you've been running the program and what evolution have you seen since you've been involved?
I took the CERT program in 2006, and I said, oh, this is a really good thing. And so I organized my neighborhood into zones, and we had classes. I mean, you know, I was military. I knew how to do this, and so I did. And then you have to recert every 5 years. And I just took the class again because I figured it wouldn't hurt me to review what I had learned. And the firefighter that was teaching it, because at that time firefighters taught it, he was doing it all by himself. And it's like a 22-hour course. So, you know, that's pretty taxing when you work all day and then you teach in the evening. So I asked him if he could use some help. And he said, oh, of course, I'm not going to refuse help. So I got a group together and we started helping him. And then after a while, it became quite evident. Well, let me back up a little. Originally, when FEMA started the program, they sent money to the states. The reason why it expanded so dramatically was they sent money to the states specifically earmarked just for CERT. So they got money for equipment and for people to teach it. So that really helped a lot, believe me. But unfortunately, with the recession, the money stopped. And with it, the program stopped pretty much because they were teaching minimally, and it wasn't really enough to sustain the program. And when I got into it, it just kept getting less and less and less. So in 2015, a group of us that were helping this firefighter, Mike Conrad by the name, and said, we need to start a nonprofit so we can raise money, because you need money. You can't do anything if you don't have money.
Absolutely.
So I did the nonprofit stuff and we got it all going, and we were able to get grant money to fund the first instructor training class. So we got FEMA to come in, and they're expensive, but anyway, we got them to come in and they taught 30 people how to teach CERT, instructor training. And so from that point on, we've been teaching 8 to 10 classes a year all throughout the county. And we probably taught over 1,000 people. And I'll tell you right now, that was 5 years ago. And right now that's making a significant difference, because with the evacuations, a lot of neighborhoods were organized. Now, I'm not saying we're in the whole county everywhere, but we're getting bigger and bigger. And they were able to sort of mobilize their neighborhood, because not everyone received the evacuation order for some reason. You know how technology is, it doesn't always work. And they were able to get the people out, and they were so thankful that they had done what they had done.
That's wonderful. We'll talk a little bit more in just a second about where you live and what you just experienced, because that's a huge component of what we're talking about and the initiative that you've set forth. Can you tell me, because CERT is community emergency and you're working with the public, in the age that we're living in now with COVID, right? How has it affected your operation?
Well, it's like sort of stopped us in our tracks for a while, because we were having classes of 25 to 30 people,
right?
With, 5 different instructors. So there was a lot of people involved. And so we had to instantly stop that. And so we retracked a little. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, a part of CERT, the University of Utah developed an online CERT training. That's only the didactic part, the lecture part of it. Doesn't include about 8 to 10 hours of hands-on training. So what we instantly said, we're going to use this. And so instead of teaching a lecture in the evenings, we advise people to take this online training. And then we were in the process of setting up. We had 5 people finish. So we thought, well, 5's a good number. That's like a team. And so we'll go ahead and teach them the hands-on training. We're going to get a few instructors and do COVID-19 precautions with the mask and the distancing and do as much of the hands-on as we could do. And so we were in the process of setting that up when this fire started. So we haven't done that piece, but we're going to do it when this is all over.
You're
Sustaining the program.
Ever evolving.
Exactly.
Ever evolving. Excellent. Thank you so much.
And well, one of the benefits though of it was that Zoom, we do a lot of additional training that was located in different areas of the country. And now with Zoom, or the county, now with Zoom, people are able to get on. And so we're training more people through Zoom as long as there's no hands-on element.
Absolutely. Well, like us with our safety trainings, we had to evolve because operations are much different than they were in the past. And we look forward to when we can go back to meeting in classrooms and things like that as well. So, maybe this is a good time to really talk about where you're located and what you've just experienced, because we could have viewership from all over California and beyond. So if you would.
Well, I'm in Santa Cruz County, and if anyone is watching any kind of television, you know that August 15th, there was a tremendous amount of lightning strikes. And in this area, we had 22 lightning strikes, and they all merged together, and it started this massive raging fire in an area that hadn't had a fire in many, many years. And the fuel was just rampant. They had areas of duff that were like 3 and 4 feet high. So once the fire started, it was like a horrendous thing. And so far now it has consumed 86,000 acres of our beautiful paradise. And we have lost over 900 homes, and almost 2,000 structures were damaged, but 900 homes. And we still have 13,000 people evacuated. We evacuated 64,000 people and set them up. Some people had places to go, but a lot of people did not. And then now we still have 13,000 people evacuated, and the fire is about 48% contained. And they don't anticipate having those people go back for at least a couple of weeks because they were in the area where there was the most severe fire damage. And in order to return people, you have to have the things that are necessary, the utilities and the streets and all that. And the fire has just burned everything. The devastation is just overwhelming. I don't know how else to put it. And it just underscores the importance of being ready and prepared to do your planning ahead of time, because you cannot wait till they say, hey, it's time to evacuate.
Absolutely. So had this occurred in 1996, right, prior to all of the work that you've done, what do you think the response might have been?
I don't think there would have been a coordinated response.
Absolutely.
We have helped the county in so many different areas. And even though we had parts of our organization broken up and we couldn't use the structure that we had set up in a disaster, we have people that are willing to help the community. They care and they want to help. And so they respond, and we're able to respond like in they tell us and we're there. Like they called us at 10:30 Sunday night, I guess it was Monday night, and we were there within 2 hours. And then we started helping with the operation, providing like 16 people a day for a week.
Interesting.
And then they gave us 2 days off, and then we started back up again. And now we're responding again, helping with the Recovery Evacuation Center, which is where all the people who have lost their homes can come. And they have all the county services, and FEMA and Red Cross are there to help, so they don't have to go to all the different areas.
So 2 questions for you, if I may. And one was, who made the call? Who called you? And 2, what were some of the things that your responders did those first few days?
Okay. The person that makes the call, we have the County Office of Emergency Services, and within that county, we have an Emergency Operations Center. and they monitor all the things going on, like flooding or bad storms or whatever. And of course, as soon as they heard about the fire, they knew that, you know, it was going to get bad. And so they called us. Like, I got a call on my phone.
Okay.
That started. And then we
And
just put out the word.
and the initial response or the initial tasks that your members had to do or were asked to do.
Well, basically, we did COVID screening. Of course, you can't forget that. I mean, coupled on a fire, you have COVID over that. So we did COVID.
Okay.
The evacuees, we were at a major evacuation center that it was at the county fairgrounds, where they have all the animals, because they have the ability to house the animals and feed them. And so we were there and we were doing COVID screening, plus we were sort of greeting the evacuees and welcoming, because they were very traumatized.
Absolutely.
They just wanted to be somewhere where they could be and just grab a handle on what was happening. And so we greeted them and directed them and helped them go where they needed to go, as well as people donating. And then also keeping people from coming to the fairgrounds that didn't need to be there. Like they have flea markets there every Sunday. So we had to keep telling people, no flea market, no flea market. There were lots of people. But anyway, that was the main thing where we started out. But also we supported a call center for CAL FIRE. They got thousands of calls, so we had people staff that so they could find out the answers and let people know. We've had other areas. We had another area that provided shelter support, where they really ran the RV section of the shelter. So we've had a lot of people involved, and it just sort of keeps evolving. They keep, asking, although we're getting tired, I must say.
I mean, and thank you for what you're doing, and to your group for what they're doing. No doubt it's an arduous task. Let's see, to keep this short from getting too long, and you've given us good information about kind of the beginning of CERT and what CERT members have done in this most recent crisis, which for anybody that may not be familiar with Santa Cruz, it's God's country. It's absolutely beautiful. The trees, the mountains, the wilderness. When you mentioned the fairgrounds being able to house animals, lots of people own horses and livestock in that area as well. So that becomes another consideration. Mm-hmm. So a question, if somebody was interested in learning more about CERT or getting more involved, could you direct us?
Oh, yes. Well, right now, Santa Cruz County CERT, we have a website, which is santacruzcountysert.org. So if you're in Santa Cruz County, but if not, the best way to do it is to go to Ready.gov, which is Homeland Security's website. And in the search line, just put CERT, and it'll direct you to what CERT's about. Plus, it'll tell you how to contact your wherever your CERT organization is within the state.
Okay, excellent. And just a side question, I live in Davis and we have our fires here in Vacaville going towards Napa. I'm curious to know what the CERT organization looks like in this area. I'm going to take it upon myself to find out more about that. So thank you for that. Any advice that you might have for the community at large for getting involved? And obviously people living in areas, wildland areas like the Santa Cruz Mountains, things like that. What should people do to prepare?
I think the most important thing is to learn about what they have to do to prepare, what they need to do for a fire. I mean, right now we have a tremendous problem with what they call the WUI, which is the wildland urban interface, wildland fire urban interface. And what has happened, we've begun to populate areas that always been wild, and now we're there, and then when fires come, people are at risk. So it's critical to really understand what you need to do to prepare, like how you have to make your property fire safe. And there's many steps, and there's a lot of information everywhere. There's no reason why people can't find out that information. It's available. And I think the plan, I cannot underscore, having been in the military for a long time, the planning is so very, very important to your success, and have things ready. Like, we taught a class about a month before this happened on evacuation, how to prepare for evacuation. and you got 5 minutes. What do you take? That was sort of the emphasis of the class. And, it was well subscribed, and I'm hoping people benefited from it, because it just really goes into all the different things that you need to do, like keeping your greenery at least 3 to 5 feet away from your home, and topping, trimming your trees so they don't hang around, cleaning your gutters out, making sure there's not debris up on your roof. There's a lot of things. I don't want to particularly go into them, but
Absolutely.
you can do that ahead of time. And then having a plan for your family, how you will evacuate your home if it's smoky, and how you're going to take care of your animals, and have everybody have a go bag of stuff that you just grab that has, your clothing and things that are important to you that you would need in an evacuation. And then also to include your pets. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of chickens that were at the fairgrounds. There were like almost 700 chickens from people. And that was only one. They had another area that had animals as well. So, I mean, goats and chickens and all those, you have to think about all those things. And the more that you do, the better off you'll be. And I can underscore that. I know the people that were ready, and it wasn't as stressful as it could have been.
Absolutely. Having been in the military as well, thank you for your service, number one. And number two is readiness, and that we are trained to be prepared for the inevitable, the things that you might expect the least. And that's what we're saying for homeowners, especially if we live in those wildland areas. So thank you so much. And when we first planned this training, it was before the fire. I'm sorry, this podcast, it was before the fire. So my first thought was, Mary's not going to be able to join with us because she's way too busy for what's going on. So Anna, sincerely, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for joining us and for taking time out. And let me ask, do you have any closing thoughts for our audience and for those of us in California?
Well, I just really feel that people should begin to understand that their safety is their responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility. You can't expect the government to come in and take care of you. And you need not only to think about yourself, but think about your neighborhood. And that the more that we get to know one another, and I can say that neighborhoods that are prepared to handle like a disaster emergency, they save lives, they limit the trauma and the cost of a disaster, as well as the property and the environmental damage. They limit that, and it's a lot less. But I think more importantly, if you as an individual, you work with your neighbors as a team, you create very strong and safe communities, and it makes a better quality of life for that community. So I appeal to people to really try and get to know your neighbors and care about your neighbors. And with COVID too, that's another whole reason. If there's someone down your street that's older that maybe might need help, that has accessibility issues, go to the store for them or find out and help them. That'll make you feel good. I always say that the really secret of life and joy is to serve others and do good. And you can do that with CERT. And I hope it, helps people. I know the people that are helping through our organization right now, they keep volunteering over and over again, because we've been doing this for a while, because it makes them really feel they're helping people in need. Okay.
I thank you. And one last supporting statement. I've actually done training with CERT members, and I was totally impressed at the commitment and the passion that those folks had when they were in my classroom. So it's how I first became aware of CERT. And congratulations, hats off to you for what you're doing.
I just have one more thing. I just give a plug to Safety Center. The reason I got to know you all was that we used to do our traffic management training just a lecture, and that's really terrible. It doesn't protect people, and I was really worried about the safety of our people. So I ended up contacting you all, and our nonprofit had a collegial relationship with your nonprofit and developed a CERT traffic management course specifically for CERT that had hands-on training. And we just did that about a month or so ago, and we've used it.
Nice.
Since. So it's been very helpful with this fire and being able to support where we could do our best.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all you do for the community. Thank you for joining us on our podcast, and please be safe with COVID and also with what's going on in Santa Cruz County. Thank you so much, Mary. Appreciate it.
Take care.